Hey everyone, this is Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology. Today we're going to take a look at Venus moving into a square with Saturn, which is happening over the weekend and into early Monday morning. I feel like this is a transit that we will be a little too late in discussing if we wait until Monday. And so even though it doesn't come through until the beginning of next week, we're going to take a look at it here to close out our week. That is our agenda for today. Please remember to like and subscribe. We are trying to move this channel across the 80,000 subscriber mark by the spring equinox. I'm setting these little goals for ourselves, goals of growth for the channel and the community. And I really appreciate all of you who listen regularly subscribing. If you haven't yet, it's free to do so, and it really does help everything we do. You can find transcripts of any of these daily talks on my website, nightlightastrology.com. Just one one promotion today. Share my screen, sorry. Here we go. So go to the course page, click on first year class, first year course. November 16th, our next program, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic, begins. There's an informational video tagged on to the end of today's content, so you can learn more about the program. If you are interested in studying with us in our first year course in Hellenistic astrology, check it out. I'm really excited about the signature in the sky around the start of this program, which is Pluto's entrance into Aquarius. During your year of studying, you'll also have Uranus in the sign of Gemini, trining that Pluto. It's a very nice signature for studying astrology in the year ahead. This program is designed for people who have a desire to become professional practitioners, as well as many people who come through who are just interested in deepening their hobby or their own personal and spiritual interest or practice of astrology. So we have need-based tuition, which is there for anyone to use if you are in a limited or difficult financial situation. We want to make sure that the class is accessible. Apply for the tuition assistance, and you can check out the sliding scale and set your own tuition price within that sliding scale. We always, for 14 years, have tried to make sure that studying astrology is accessible and that we have our normal prices. We ask if you can pay for them, do so. And if you can't, if you still want to study and you have to work within some constraints, we understand. So use the need-based tuition. That's what it's there for. And we trust you guys to do that. Like I think we have the most wonderful audience ever, in the sense that people who can afford to donate to our Kickstarter or pay for our courses at regular price do, and people who can't use the need-based tuition. And we really haven't had a problem being over 14 years of doing this. We haven't had a problem with it. So anyway, you can check out more about the class after I sign off from today's regular content. And in the meantime, now let's get to it, putting up the real-time clock. Here we go. So, all right. Here you can see Monday morning, October 28th, Venus is moving into the square with Saturn. This square is perfecting Monday morning, but here we are on Friday, October 25th, and Venus is about 4 degrees away, but watch what happens. It moves pretty quickly. Extend it to Saturday, and we're within that 3-degree range tomorrow. Extend it to Sunday, and now we're within the 2-degree range. And if you continue to speed this clock up through Sunday, you'll notice that by Sunday evening, Venus is now on the same degree, the 12th degree, as Saturn. So you will definitely start experiencing this Saturday into Sunday, if not today already. Certainly Monday, it will be concluding in its perfect aspect, and then fading. Let's just draw this out a little bit. Get about 3 degrees apart by Wednesday of next week. So between now and Wednesday of next week, we're in the range of Venus and Saturn. Now, I think it's interesting because one thing I want to say before we get into the archetypal combinations of Venus and Saturn, which are interesting and we should all just kind of refresh on going into this transit, but also because Venus was the ruler of our solar eclipse in the sign of Libra, for the next few months, the dramatic aspects that Venus makes, the sign changes that she makes, carry some of the vibration, if you want to call it that, of the eclipse. She will carry some of the unfolding of the meaning of the eclipse in our lives for several months at least. So this becomes consequential. We have Venus meeting with Saturn, the two rulers of Libra, where the recent solar eclipse was. This meeting of the hosts of the sign of Libra suggests to me that we could connect this square back to the meaning of the eclipse and back to the whole sign house of Libra in our birth charts. I don't think it's far-fetched to say that this transit may bring forth some of the promise of that eclipse um, which Venus Saturn square, not the easiest manifestation of an eclipse in Venus's sign. However, there is one really promising feature of this square that I will be mentioning today in my 5 things to watch for. And I'm going to point it out technically now on the screen so you can see it. One thing that's really nice about this is that Venus, and I'm going to just back this up just a touch here. Venus is in the superior position. So if you imagine that Venus is looking into the center of the wheel and Venus is a person, the aspect being made to Saturn would be to Venus's right-hand side. This means that Venus is effectively in what we call the superior position, exerting its influence over Saturn. Within the dynamic, in other words, this is more of Venus's influence coloring Saturn than it is of Saturn dominating Venus or inflecting itself upon Venus. And that can create some very subtle shifts in the way that we read aspects. This is a big part of what we study and how we learn in my programs, for example. Those little distinctions like that in Hellenistic astrology can really shift the way that you read and understand things you're looking at in birth charts or everyday transits like this one. Anyway, let's go on now to talk about these 5 features of Venus square Saturn. And remembering that this is probably connected, this square, to the early manifestations of the eclipse in Libra. Some of the early promise will, I think, coincide with this square. I think that's a strong likelihood. But we do have Venus sort of overcoming Saturn. That is a silver lining, I think, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. So some of the Venus square Saturn themes that you see over and over again that we have talked about many times, many previous Venus Saturn dynamics on my channel, but that bear repeating. And hopefully in every time that I cover them, we're looking at them in slightly different ways. It's always my goal. Anyway, one thing that I like to say that isn't new that I'm going to say again is that Venus and Saturn is like that quality of a relationship or the work of an artist that simply grows better and sweeter and more profound over time. Saturn represents things that tend to get better over time, that age and mature and grow wiser and more seasoned. When you think about the veteran experience of a musician or a craftswoman doing what they do over a long period of time and slowly shaping and refining and becoming more masterful, these are Saturnian traits. When you combine that with Venus, you get those things that are artful or beautiful or sensual, relationships even that get better, wiser, more beautiful over time. This is one of the most wonderful parts of Venus-Saturn transits, is that they often reflect great moments of maturation within the process of artwork or relationships or lovemaking or whatever. So things that get more beautiful and that are refined and deepened and that their deepest, most beautiful qualities have come out through a long process of time. The fine wine of Venus square Saturn. All right, number 2 is Bittersweet. I like this one because there's a taste that we all know. In fact, let me just pull up this little list. So here are a list of things that are considered bitter and sweet. And I think it's interesting because when I was looking at these, I was just considering how many of us usually need something bittersweet, like semi-regularly. My wife is any indication of the semi-regularness of chocolate anyhow. So not all chocolate, of course, is bittersweet, but they're like real chocolate. You know what I'm talking about? The dark chocolate that contains more chocolate and less sugar or milk. I believe that's the recipe. It's called bittersweet chocolate. And I am like, I'll tell you right now, my wife, it's like her go-to medicine. If there's anything like they're squirreled away in all the nooks and crannies in my house are little pieces, like a little broken off pieces of bittersweet chocolate. She doesn't like the super sugary stuff. She likes it, it's like 98% or I don't know what percent it is, but you get the idea. Isn't it amazing though, how many of us regularly need something bittersweet like a bittersweet chocolate? I know that most of the main demographic of people that consume astrology are women. We know that. It's like across the industry, everybody knows that. Um, I think honestly, as a man who enjoys astrology, I find it disappointing. Come on, guys, like, come on, let's step it up. So I don't know if this is a stereotype, or this is true or false. So forgive me, but I assume that most women watching this may be similar to my wife, and that a lot of you probably like bittersweet chocolate, because I've just noticed that like my mom does, my sister does, like all the women in my life that I've known over time have usually been fans of bittersweet chocolate. Maybe that's my karma. Maybe you can maybe you resonate with that. Maybe you don't. But anyway, I find it amazing that women in particular, if I'm wrong about this, please forgive me, but isn't it interesting that women in particular tend to love regular little tidbits of bittersweet chocolate? I think that's a very Venus Saturn kind of thing, that I don't know what it is. There's something about that. Please illuminate me. You guys tell me. You would know better than I do. But what is it about that? Not just on a level of taste or it feels good, but what is it about that archetypally, right? I was thinking about Venus, Saturn, and bittersweet chocolate, and the amount of women in my life that I've known, friends, people I dated, my wife, obviously, even my daughters, they're nibbling on that stuff with her too. My mom, I don't find it as like a regular kind of need. I wonder if it's something hormonal. I don't know. But anyway, I think it's really interesting that there is something about the feminine, about the yin, let's call it that, because it can be broader than just, literal sex or gender, right? And this is something that the I Ching talks about and is present in Taoism, but there's more of an ability to blend and mix qualities that seem like they should be opposed. And the yin is particularly good at that. I think this is why they say, in sort of stereotypical ways, yin is the metaphysical energy of relationality. And of course, women get associated with that or whatever, but you get the idea. There's something about Venus that requires that she constantly be harmonizing things. And therefore, she's more of an expert when it comes to the blending of things that seem like they should be opposed, like bitter and sweet. Isn't there something about, I don't know, interior designers or artists or any kind of Venusian craftsman or woman that says, I can take things that look like they don't belong together and find a way of harmonizing them? I just feel like that is what yin, if I had to describe yin as like a person, that's what she's good at. You know what I mean? Venus Saturn asks us to have regular experiences, a regular taste and touch of the bittersweet. If we don't, I mean, like, let me just put it this way. I, my wife's a Cancer rising. She's very nostalgic. I don't know if you guys saw Inside Out 2. We took our kids to see it, and there was a character in the control panel of the little girl's brain or whatever that was called nostalgia. And she would come out after something happened and act like it was like happened like 2 minutes ago, and she was like, oh, I remember when this thing happened, or like it was 2 minutes ago. So anyway, I always tease my wife a Cancer rising because she's super nostalgic. And then the moon, by the way, as a reflective medium that likes to reflect on things like memories are reflections, is also associated with nostalgia. Anyway, I point all this out because I think that there's something about remembering that you have to. There's like a nostalgic quality where I'll notice Ashley, like after our girls are in bed, she'll often reflect on something that happened earlier in the day and then reflect on something that happened when they were 3, you know, and I'm like, "Are you about to cry?" Like, "What are you doing? Come on, let's watch Emily in Paris." This is her show that she has me watching right now, which she got me hooked on. We had an exchange. I made her watch Breaking Bad. It's a show that I liked that I always wanted her to watch. And then afterwards, she made me watch Emily in Paris, which I think is kind of fun. Anyway, all of it's pretty mindless entertainment. But the point is, I'll be like, "Are you kidding me? You're sitting there, you're about to cry." Like, what? But what I love about it is that And I think a lot of moms are like this. And, frankly, as a Cancer myself, I can be like this too. And I don't think it's limited to just women, but uh, there's a quality in us as human beings that needs to reflect with just a tinge of pain and hurt upon things that have happened, with remembrance and fondness and like a pain that it's not there anymore. That bittersweet quality is very Venus Saturn. Um, Moon Saturn can be like that too, though sometimes a little heavier sometimes with Moon Saturn. But Venus Saturn can almost have this sentimental and aesthetic appreciation for things that have passed, for things that are old. So remember the bittersweet. Number 3, death limits mortality in love and relationships. Relationships can die, friends can die, Venusian figures can die or pass. A Venusian figure would be a friend, a sister, a daughter, a woman. Those are typically the Venusian figures, but it can be just a lover and a relationship. And these deaths don't have to be literal, but there are hard and serious events in relationships. Any Venusian figure or relationship in our life we can experience as a more troubling relationship, or there can be moments of death and finality in relationships, even if that just means we're realizing we're not really going to be friends with someone anymore. So watch for those kind of, Venus Saturn can be about, it can be a little Shakespearean. It can be a little tragic. There can be a sense of grieving the passing of something Venusian. Even if sometimes people consider their cats to be Venusian in some way. Excuse me. Number 4, serious moments, choices, and crossroads. Venus and Saturn will present us with something that cannot be harmonized. It's as though Venus's natural job is to create pleasant, pleasing, harmonizing, smooth, flowing situations. And when Venus encounters Saturn, there is something that limits or prohibits the ability for something to flow or be harmonized. And so we have choices to make. We're at an impasse of some kind. And this will be a weightier, more serious crossroads or moment of decision or choice, because we realize that something is limiting our ability to enjoy or harmonize or flow. And whatever that is, it requires that we do something about it, that we make a difficult choice. That Venus is not, it's not Venus's strong suit to have to deal with polarization or obstacles or difficulties. Venus is flowy. What's really nice about all of this, however, where I started with and where I'm going to end, is that Venus shall overcome. Venus is in the superior position, and there is, I think, some reason to believe that Venus's superior position to Saturn, in one of the ways that ancient astrologers describe this dynamic, would be in terms of Venus being able to overcome the obstacle placed in front of it by Saturn, who's in that inferior position. So what I think the silver lining here is that we may find certain kinds of Saturnian impediments or difficulties or hard realities. And Venus, buoyant in a fire sign of Jupiter, seems ready to overcome or to rise above or work around whatever impediment arises. So I like this as an opportunity for Venus to, kind of press more of her nature onto Saturn and make something difficult sweet, make something difficult to be utilized constructively. To harmonize with something difficult seems a more likely outcome given Venus's superior position. And frankly, to me, this is a good thing, since we also have Venus as the ruler of the recent eclipse. And the suggestion that this encounter is connected to the early manifestations of the eclipse, I think, is a good thing, because although there are some more serious qualities to a Venus-Saturn square, some more serious, weightier themes, Venus feels like the lighter of the two, rising above the somehow rising above the weightiness of Saturn. So we'll end it there. I hope that this, as always, I hope it's useful for you. I hope that you are able to take these themes, bring them into a conscious meditation, and find yourself reflecting upon them as the events of the next 4 or 5 days unfold. All right, that is it. I hope you're having a good end of your week. Stick around after I sign off to learn more about the upcoming program. I can't wait to see some of you in class. I love teaching astrology more than anything. I love helping people to become the unique individual astrologer that each student is meant to be. So our program is about giving you everything that you need from the standpoint of a practitioner's lineage, while also really giving you the space and community in which to grow and develop yourself. So anyhow, stick around to learn more, and we'll see you again next week. Bye. Hey, everyone. I'm glad that you're sticking around to hear more about the Year 1 program that's coming up. The program starts on November 16th of this fall, and I am here today to tell you all that the program includes and why I think you really like it if you're thinking about studying astrology. So a few practical details about the course as well. The class begins November 16th, as I mentioned, but it takes place on Saturdays from 12 to about 2 or 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So that's 11 to 2 Central, and typically classes are about 2 hours long. Sometimes they run over with Q&A and discussion, but you can always plan for about 2 hours and you won't miss any of the actual lecture content for the day. You may have to duck out a little early if Q&A or discussion is extending. Sometimes it does, which is why we say between 2 and 3 hours, but typically it's around 2. All of the classes are recorded, so if you can't attend live, you are more than welcome to watch the recordings at your own pace and on your own time. You have lifetime access to the recordings, and everything is housed on a student website. I want to actually give you a just a little preview of what that student website looks like. So I am going to open up my own version of Thinkific, which is the platform that we use. So here's are some of my courses. These are all the Nightlight courses I teach. You can see on the page. But I'm going to tune into, let's go to Nightlight 28, which is the section that began in June of 2024. So here you're going to see that we have orientation instructions, course information, class links, and calendar. Everything that you need to know how to access the course is there. And you'll have a version of this in your own panel that you get set up with when you enroll. And then our lessons are laid out. So lesson 1, we have the video, the audio, the slides, the transcript. We have the Q&A box transcript so you can see what people were saying in the chat box during class. We have flashcards. We have a workbook. We have planet and sign glyph flashcards. We have bonus material, videos that we like from YouTube that we link you to. Say, check this video out, check that video out. They go along with some of the things we talked about in class. So every lesson has material for you to go as far as you want with, but the main thing is the video, audio, slides, transcript, etc. are all listed there so that you can download and watch it on your own time if you can't attend live. Again, the live classes do happen on Saturdays for this cohort, starting November 16th. That is our first day of class. And then going forward, it always meets on Saturdays, and we give you the class schedule to map out. And the breaks that we have, the study sessions that we have, everything's mapped out on the class calendar for you. So those are just a few practical details that, just to kind of start us off with. So I'm going to take you over to the website, which is nightlightastrology.com. And I'm going to share with you some information about the program and sort of walk you through what it includes and what you can expect. So it is an almost year-long program. We typically finish between 10 and 11 months out of the year. It can depend a little bit on some of my teaching and scheduling, because sometimes I teach at conferences and it may delay some of our modules by a week or something like that. But it's typically around 10 to 11 months that the program lasts. So we call it our first year program. At Nightlight, we have a program for absolute beginners. You may want to check that out if you are like brand spanking new. That would be 8 to 10 hours of content that's really meant to set you up for the first year course. We sort of assume that if you're coming into the first year program, you already know a little bit about astrology. For example, you have some familiarity with the signs, planets, and houses. Maybe you know what aspects are, but you want to learn more about what they are. But if you are really at the very total entry level space, then try Astrology for Beginners. And when you take that, you could do that right away and then join the first year course in November, and you'd be perfectly set up for it. But anyhow, in this program, over the course of about a year, we work through 30 lessons that I lead. And those lessons are all 2 to 3 hours each, including lecture, a little break, and a Q&A portion where we open up for people to come on mic and camera and ask questions and have an interactive discussion about the material for the day. The program is broken into modules that cover a variety of topics in ancient Hellenistic astrology. That is the earliest era of horoscopic astrology. And so, if you don't know a lot about the different schools of astrology, Hellenistic astrology is going to be the kind of astrology that you see a lot of astrologers practicing nowadays. It's become more popular in the last 30 years or so. And that is due to the fact that a lot of ancient texts with some of the original techniques of horoscopic astrologers were recently translated into the English language, and it's created this renaissance in terms of the use of ancient approaches to astrology. I have a background in modern psychological, archetypal, and evolutionary astrology. And so, of course, I bring those things to the table. But the course is primarily focused on the excavation of ancient techniques and the spiritual philosophy that ancient astrologers also espoused. The closest thing that I can tell you to what that looks like is, ask this question: do you resonate with the philosophy that you hear me take on my YouTube channel? If so, then you're going to love this course in terms of its philosophical and spiritual approach, because the spiritual approach to astrology that I teach is really at the heart of the program. And that's a big part of my life. I approach astrology from a spiritual standpoint. It doesn't belong to one religion or one particular school of thought, but you will hear me talking about things like the soul, the belief in the transmigration of the soul. You'll hear me talk about the need to be soul-centered in our client approach to counseling in astrology. You'll hear me have an appreciation for psychological dimensions of astrology, but also ancient astrology is really very, very good at developing your predictive capacity. We talk about what kinds of predictions are appropriate, how to make appropriate predictions, how to be the right kind of astrologer for our clients without inducing any fear. So there's a lot of care that goes into the development of this craft. But ancient astrology is really amazing when it comes to honing your predictive abilities. And then what you'll find is in this program, there's also a pretty significant emphasis on the psychological dimensions and client care. Anyhow, we go into the roots of ancient Hellenistic astrology and its techniques in this program, and the 30 classes are broken into modules. We work through the history and philosophy. We work through planets, houses, signs, aspects, essential and accidental dignities. And then we get into approaches to the delineation of natal charts. And then at the end of the program, almost a third of the program is dedicated to live client readings, where you're going to see me meet with a person and apply what we've been studying for an hour-long reading. We take a break, we come back, and then we workshop. How did I do that? Why did I make these choices? How did I handle this or that came up in the reading? And it becomes easily the favorite part for most students of the entire program, because by that point, you've got so much theory that you're really ready to see it put into action. We alternate those live client practice sessions with hands-on practice, where students get to bring chart questions into class that we work on. And that's also something that most people really love. A lot of people will look at the curriculum and say, well, I already know planets, houses, and signs and aspects and dignities. But not if you haven't studied Hellenistic astrology, because the approach that ancient astrologers had to these topics is vastly different from the approach that modern astrologers take. So you will be, in a sense, relearning basic things in a brand new way. And I think a much more enriching, deep, and philosophically clear way. It's really nice to know the why behind things. This program and Hellenistic astrology in general is very good at helping you understand the why behind everything that we do. Also, it's really important to participate when you study astrology in a living lineage. So one of the reasons I don't let people jump ahead to my second or third year programs is because I want you to be entrained to a lineage, a particular way of doing things that comes from an astrologer who has a very living, busy, active practice and who has had teachers themselves. I think that's important for astrological learning. That's the model that my own learning take, and so that's what I really want students to take away from my programs. Anyhow, so all of that aside, the second year program focuses After we build our understanding of the basic delineation techniques of birth charts, in year 2, we move into timing techniques, which is all about when the karma of a birth chart is going to be active and expressing itself throughout the course of a lifetime. That's year 2. Year 3 focuses on the development of counseling skills at a much deeper level. And then we also have a 1-year horary program, which is about the development of a very specific predictive technique that can be a really amazing tool to add to your kit. That is 4 years worth of training programs that we have. However, I want to mention that many people take our classes just for the sake, purely for the sake of their own personal growth. Taking these programs is very much like being taught how to utilize a technology that for yourself will be deeply useful for the rest of your life and maybe for close friends or family members around you. Many people come through our programs taking that benefit away and will study through all 4 years of our programs with no intention of being professional. This is their hobby. This is a spiritual tool that will have it will pay dividends over a long period of time. However, many people without the intention to practice come into our courses and discover that they're actually good at it and may end up reading for other people part-time. And then there are students who are deeply, intensely motivated to practice for other people. And it is not that our programs really make those people successful. Our programs contribute to your development, but it really is that some people have a calling to practice professionally. And these programs are designed to give you all the tools you need to develop that confidence and to develop a really coherent set of tools and to entrain yourself to a lineage, which you can also develop your own unique style out of. So those are some of the kinds of people that take our programs, you might say. So the 30 classes on the year are then broken into modules. And in between modules, we have 2 course directors who are present in all of the classes, and they lead breakout tutoring sessions where you can come in and review or ask questions about the module that we've just completed, which is usually anywhere between 2 and 3 classes each. So those breakout study sessions led by our tutors are outside of the 30 classes and very useful. A lot of people like to attend those because they also offer opportunity for community and just lively conversation. We also have 12 online webinar classes led by guest teachers that we host throughout the year. Those are free, and if you can't make them live, they're all uploaded into your student folder. You also have an interactive group forum discussion staffed with tutors who typically respond to questions that you have about the material within 24 hours. So if you can't attend a tutoring session or you just have a random question on a Tuesday night, you can pop it in there and you'll get an answer. We also have a ton of bonus material, optional quizzes, flashcards, tons of supplemental material that is there to help people go as deeply as they want. We have a reading list that is expansive. And that reading list, we don't expect anyone to accomplish. It's more so a resource that we give you saying, here, if you want to know all the things I've read, if you want to know all the things that I love, if you want to know all the things I recommend, here's a master list of everything for each lesson. You could go, PhD level if you wanted to and read thousands and thousands of pages, or you might find that there's just one extra book that looks really interesting and you want to pick it up. But we pride ourselves on making sure you have a ton of resources. You have lifetime access to all the class recordings. You can email our staff or me throughout the year with questions, and my staff will also defer to me in the case that they don't know the answer to a question. So that is what the program includes. It starts November 16th. If you would like to join, at the bottom between now and October 15th, our early bird payments are available. So that saves you some money off the cost of the course. There is a 12-month installment plan that is cheaper than our normal plan, a one-time payment that's significantly cheaper than our normal one-time payment. So you get these little sales that we do until October 15th. We also have need-based tuition assistance. So if you are someone who would like to take this program, but you are on a fixed or tight budget, we have an application there. Click apply now. Just tell us what you need. We give a range. We say between this dollar amount and this dollar amount, what can you spend? And then we set you up with a plan for that tuition number per month. And that is available for anyone. We ask people to apply early because those spots are limited, but we are really accommodating. We try to make sure that nobody's priced out of a spiritual education. Like, this topic should be very accessible for people because I believe that the divine is speaking through the sky, and like anyone should have access to understanding what it's saying, right? So anyway, That is a bit about the program. I hope that this has been useful for you. If there are any questions you have, you can look over the curriculum content on the page, on the year one page. There's more information there. Check out the FAQ section for more questions. Email us info@nightlightastrology.com. And I hope to see some of you in class soon. I think this is going to be a really powerful program because it's also starting right as Pluto's moving into Aquarius. And within the year, we're going to have a Uranus-Pluto trine with Uranus in Gemini. These Aries signatures and the connection between Uranus and Pluto make for a very powerful year to advance our understanding of astrology. So it's a great election year for studying. And I hope to see some of you in class soon.